So in earlier uh, sessions, we mainly talked about fork system call and related things. So while we created a child, we identified that uh, a fork creates a child and it copies the same code in the child process, and both of them execute at different time. Okay, whatever code is added after fork would be executed in the child process. Now we'll be talking mainly about like the exec function, where let us say that like when a child is created, though we know that parent and child would be executing same code in the sense same program file. What if we want child and parent to execute different code, I mean to say different executables. Okay, now there can be multiple children. For example, whenever we write ps dash ejh, let us write less. So you can see here, like for example, this is a child. This is the process tree created. Now let me take example somewhere here. So for example, this process was created. This child was generated. This child again generated. This child generated again. This child kind of correct. So all of them are executing different codes. Similarly, if you see here, it created say 6 children, but 6 children are executing same code. Similarly, for example, here Apache 2. And here systemd, then these all are added. Now, if we talk about say our bash, okay, somewhere here, so we one can see this. Correct. So one can check here like bash created these children's gedit, then ps, then lace, then another bash is also added in the genome terminal. So one can see that these are our two terminals. So if I write fg, so if we write now ps-egh again, so bash is removed. So this ps and lace is shown. So these bash are two children. Now, if we want to achieve similar kind of thing rather for our code, in the sense like parent and child should execute different executables. So for that purpose, we have to make use of exec family functions in C language. Now these exec family functions rather are used to replace current process image with a new process image. Now if we write say man exec, you can see that there are different functions listed. Now I will try to talk about few of them rather. Okay, so let us try to write it. So to demonstrate what exactly these functions are, okay, so I'm using this as a writing pad for us. So we'll go one by one. So let us say we want to talk about say execl. Now this execl, one can say that takes a path, okay, and character. So these are the arguments and executes the executable. What are the executable that you write? Okay. Similarly, execv, okay, which is available there, takes an array of arguments and executes the program. Execlp or execlp, similar to execl, but searches for the file in the path. Okay. Similarly, if we talk about execvp, similar to execv, but searches for again file in the path. Execle, similar to execl, but allows specifying custom environment. Execve, similar to execv, but allows specifying again custom environment. So like if at all we have to use, say for example, how will I use this? So let us say execl. So this would be executing a program by specifying the full path. So how exactly you write, say, if you want to call this execl, then you write slash bin. Suppose you want to call ls, correct? So you write this way. Then you specify the arguments. And when you see that arguments are over, you end it by null. Okay. Now this null would be kind of for termination of list of arguments, and that's why we are specifying this. So this is how you call execl. Now similarly, if I want to make use of say exec v, now exec v takes, like for example here, the path name. Okay, and similarly, it if you see, it takes arguments as an a list. Okay, here. So if at all we have to make use of this, so how would exactly you do? Suppose you are having a character array provided, say with arguments, which is an array of strings. Okay, and these are the values. Say for example, you are writing say ls, then you are writing dash l. Now when you say that your list is complete, you specify null there. Okay, and then curly bracket. So this would be your list of arguments. Now you want to call exec v. So here you just specify a path. So slash bin slash ls is the program, okay, which is to be executed. And the arguments, what are the arguments that you have? Arguments, the variable name that you give, you can pass it here and then press semicolon. So this is how you can call exec v. Similarly, if I want to make use of say exec lp, then you just specify the file path. Okay, so file would be say for example this ls. Okay, then arguments again. So you can specifically say make use of these arguments as in a direct way. Correct. So this is how you can make use of execlp. Now if you want to make use of say something different, like for example exec vp. So what exactly is to be done again? Like as now if you see, it would be containing exec vp contains arguments, correct? Similarly, the way that we saw with exec v. So you are assuming that these are your arguments which are declared there, and you just want to make use of CVP. So you may not have to provide the complete path. You just specify file name, okay, and then you write arguments. Okay, so this would be sufficient for you to rather give call to exec VP. Okay, and if you want, say, to make use of environment variable, so you can define an array of environment variable. Say, like we know, envp is a list of parameters for considered to be environment variable. So let us say you are defining here home. Can your home directory is say slash home slash Nitin? Like this home directory. Now suppose you want to specify one another environment variable. So log name, login name should be like, for example, sorry, I wrote small. Actually, it should be greater in cap lock log name, because these are environment variables. So let us say it is Nitin. And then like as I stated earlier too, so you can end it by null, correct? Like this. Now you have to make use of this thing as a parameter. So let us say I will copy this and I will change it here. Because we want to specify the CV exec LE we want with environment variable. So exec LE requires path, arguments, and lastly end, and then environment variables. So exec LE, so path would be required. So here path would be what? Slash bin slash ls. Now instead of you can specify these all arguments. Okay, ended by null. Okay, here ended by null in all cases. Fine. So similarly, once you are done with these arguments, then you have to specify the environment list. So envp and done. So this is how you can give call to execcle or execlp and so on. Like you can make use of other exec family functions too. Now, as what we saw was exec replaces the calling process. It does not return unless it fails. Okay. It is typically used after fork to run a new program in the child process. Now, suppose if exec fails, then it returns -1 and sets error number. And now what we'll do is, so we'll try to introduce this via a code. So let us say Emacs, this is the code written. Okay, so we'll close this too. Because we want to execute this code. So this is our code. So as usual, what we did was like we started with header files. We are going to make use of fork, exit, wait, and exec CLP function. And these are the system calls. And we are going to make use of printf, sleep, and other functions. Everything is somewhat similar. Only just the thing that I added here is this call. So I have used the same thing like we want to display ls. Fine. Now I will show you like what happens if exec CLP fails. So we'll try to fail it purposefully. Fine. So in child, what we want is child image should be replaced. Parent should be a dot out. Child should be name, whatever the name that you specify here. So this should be the name of the file. Fine. So then once it displays, it should terminate. Okay. And then go on. Now let us try to save this code and let us try to compile it. So gcc -m32 exec.c. Now let us execute. Now you will see like this is shown. Now if I try to check with EJH and if I write less, now as we took some time rather, it actually finished the execution. Child process finished execution. Fine. So let us try to execute one more time and then we'll fire this because it is waiting that child to finish. So if we go below, you can see that this a dot out was a parent process. It created a child and child finished the execution, but we wanted parent to wait the child to finish. And in parent, we added sleep. That's why it is showing this thing. Now let us say we go to Emacs again, exec.c. Now instead of L dash L, we'll give purposefully something wrong as dash L capital. Now we know that like if I try to write ls dash L, suppose if I write ls dash L, what it is showing you this output. So actually when we wrote ls dash L, this kind of output was expected. So now we changed it to this. So let us try to create again the thing. Execute this. You can see a dot out and ls is defunct. Now once it finishes here, you can see that child finished. Now this would be removed. Correct. One can remove this ls. Let us execute this for a while. You can see parent waiting for child process executing ls dash L. You can see a dot out and ls. This is the process tree. Now as it is finished, so nothing is shown. Now let us write say dash m. So we know that this is an invalid option. So let us try to add that option there. And it should give us some kind of error. Now we saw what error it displays, invalid option. So now in code, what is the code that we wrote, we have said that it should display some error like execlp failed. So I will write here -m. Let us save. Now let us compile and execute. We know that it should give an error because exec is failing. You can see invalid option -m. Okay. And we will try to see like whether it displays something. Child process finished. Fine. So the error is given to you. Now this error, because it could not execute this, so now we will change it. This was for operator. This was for operand. So instead, what we'll do now, we'll write this as L and we'll make it LS capital. If I write LS, we see this error, correct? So let us compile, execute. Correct. Now, as we wrote it as a first parameter file name to be capital small ls. Okay. So we'll make it to capital LS. Let us execute now. Now you can see execlp failed. This was what we added. Correct? Execlp failed. Now we'll try to see that code too here. So if I write less exec.c, you can see this was error that we added there, like execlp failed. Right? And this is how actually exec works. You can try this with your codes. Thank you.